Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. Okay, so we're at another Sabbath this week. So I'd like to, today I guess, it's an important day in our history. And before I get into the subject at hand, I'd like to give you an update on, what's happening around the world and where I see the world right now. Right now, as you know, the so-called allies, America, UK, European nations, they still supporting Ukraine. They want Ukraine to win the war against Russia. But so far, Ukraine has failed to achieve that goal. Some developments happened last week in which Russia has given a warning to Europeans and America that if they continue to meddle and continue to supply weapons that fire at Russia from Ukraine, that Russia will strike with the nuclear arsenal that Russia has. And President Putin compared the Hiroshima bomb or the Hiroshima strike that America did back in the day, which was, I think, apparently about 20 megatons of a bomb, with his present 70 megaton bombs. And so Russia said that they will not hesitate, and of course they are in the process of moving some of their arsenal, their nuclear weapons, into friendly nations in Europe or Eastern Europe, so that if need be, they can activate those weapons and fire at what they perceive to be their enemy. So that's that happening. In terms of Israel, you may have heard, maybe you didn't hear, Israel was in a bit of a scuffle with Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Hezbollah destroyed many key buildings in a army base in the north. They destroyed Israel's dome, so-called dome, that, supposed to stop projectiles coming in. At least at this time it didn't stop the projectile, and it got destroyed. There was a drone footage that they issued for the first time, I guess, that showed that they actually, killed Israeli soldiers as it was heading into the base. There was nothing stopping it. It just went nonchalantly into the base, recording it, and then exploded. It was like one of those explode kamikaze type of drones. So that going on, Yemen was firing missiles. They actually struck some kind of ballistic missiles to the United States, their big aircraft carrier. It was struck. I don't think it was destroyed completely, but it was struck with a missile. It actually, the missile, whatever that was, that Yemen fired, managed to penetrate all the defenses of the Americans and, hit the ship and damaged it. America quickly took that ship aside to some Middle Eastern base, and that news hasn't been leaked since. What actually happened? People are being kept in the dark about what's going on over there. It's quite clear that America doesn't have the technology to prevent Yemen from striking its ships. Also, UK and America were involved in targeting areas in Yemen which they bombed. So, of course, in retaliation, Yemeni fighters are going to strike back. They don't really care, you're UK or if you're USA. They're going to strike you, and they said that they will continue to fight until some kind of Palestinian, issue is resolved. So there's that. Iran has vowed to also, enter the war if, I guess, certain things happen in the West. If the West gets involved, then Iran said they will get involved. So there is that as well. So that's all that going on. I wanted to give you a little brief about something that I think it's time that I give you a little bit on that before I speak further. It might help you understand the world we live in. a lot of, we as a people living in our respective countries, in whatever nations you live in, we have been lied to, and we have, had information hidden from us. We have had history replaced and erased, and we have been given history that is not entirely accurate. Now, one of the empires that existed, it was called the Tartarian Empire. I don't know if you ever heard of the term. I have heard of it. The Tartarian Empire was an empire of giants. Okay, their buildings still exist. The buildings in Westminster, the Durham Cathedral in the UK, are believed to be buildings built by these civilization called the Tartarians. The White House also was apparently built by the Tartarians, maybe renovated by different people later down the road. The Singer building in New York was a building that was built by them before it was demolished. And there are the Penn Station, the old Penn Station in New York was also built by them. So these are some of the buildings in the West. That cathedral that caught fire in Notre Dame was also built by the Tartarians. The Kremlin was also built by the Tartarians, and the Tartarian Empire spread all the way from China, northern China, to central Afghanistan, including Kazakhstan and those regions. Now, the problem is this, that a lot of this history has been erased in the West, and you are not taught these things, and you're not told about those things. I remember as a kid learning some of these things back in the East. I still remember it. They did teach us these things in the East. There was a man called, you know him as Genghis Khan. We don't know him as Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan as they pronounce it in English. We know him as Genghis Khan. This was a ferocious Mongolian fighter, and he fought with the Tartarians. There is a lot of history in the East for the Tartarians, and it is believed that Genghis Khan, for me to actually give you anything about the Tartarians in the East, I'd have to read the old materials that are there. So maybe next I go there, I'll get an ancient book on the Tartarians in their language, and then I will read it in the local language. Then I'll be able to give you what it says about these people. Because in Mongolia, this man called Genghis Khan, he actually defeated the Tartarians. The Tartarians were giants. Okay. They had vastly greater technology than us today. They built huge monuments. They were very clever people, and not to say they were white or black, they were a mixture of people, and they were giants. So they were able to carry these stones like feathers that you see in these big buildings today. Also, what you may want to know is that the Tartarian Empire has been removed and erased systematically from our history, so we know nothing about them. And by the way, Tartarians existed before the birth of Jesus. Now, the Bible is a very reliable, although the Bible I don't claim is a history book or a scientific book, but it does have history. The Bible talks about giants, okay? The Bible tells us that there were giants on the earth, and these giants are not just any giants. The Bible actually tells us where they were, and it tells us how King David and others were involved in fighting with these giants. It talks about, a lot of people think that these giants existed pre-flood. That is not true. The giants actually existed post-flood as well. Og, for example, the king of Bashan, mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 3, was a giant post-flood. Goliath was a giant post-flood, mentioned in the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel. Ishbi Benob, mentioned in the second book of also Samuel, was a giant. Saph, mentioned in the 2 Samuel 21, was a giant. Lahmi, Goliath's brother, was a giant, mentioned in 2 Chronicles 20, chapter 20, verse 5. These were giants that are mentioned that are post-flood giants. So the Bible has a lot to say about them, but the Bible does not tell you, it doesn't go into intricate detail, but it does tell you that there were giants in the earth. So now there is one problem what the so-called Gentiles did. They lied and they hid information, and they tried to misrepresent what was in the Bible. They tried to make out that Enlil, I've written about Enlil in the past. Enlil was a god that the Sumerians worshipped, and they tried to make out that is the name of Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, the Elohim of Israel, the God of Israel. That is not true, because what they did is what happened. They confused, a lot of the modern people confused Enlil with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because what happened in the past was they had mixed worship. Because what they did, they took the God of Abraham, in the Sumerian times, because God still existed back then, and they kind of married his worship with their other god Enlil. So a lot of people today are confused about that, and they think, oh, maybe Enlil and Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, as known as Jehovah, maybe they are the same God. And the answer is they are not. They were mixed. I have seen ancient artifacts, I have seen ancient pictures in which I have seen the mixing so much as even taking the biblical God and having some Sumerian goddess and marrying the two together and saying this is the wife of, as they write, Yahweh. They say, oh, this is a wife of Yahweh, but that is not true. They actually did that because they had this mixed worship, almost similarly to the Indians today, that you find that they mix the different gods and goddesses together, and oh yeah, this is the wife of so and so, and this is the husband god of so and so. These are all gods and goddesses in India, and one is, some of them are husbands of some other goddess, etc. Similarly, and what I'm trying to explain to you is, similarly, we find that the God of Abraham was mixed with these ancient cultic cultures. And the thing that happened is when God confirmed the covenant with Israel and separated himself from the rest of the so-called gods that the Philistines or the Sumerians or Canaanite people that lived there, that worshipped, God separated himself from those races, and God then assigned himself to the children of Israel and told them that don't mix worship, like the Egyptians were doing, Canaanites were doing, Philistines were doing. All of these people were mixing worship with different gods, and God prohibited us from mixing. And what happened when Israel came out of Egypt with the fanfare and with the miracles that God showed our people, that some of these people started to mix worship with the false gods, or these stupid, what I call idols of Egypt and idols of other countries. That is when God really became angry with Israel and started to punish Israel in different ways. So we were always told not to do that. So, however, as you know, as we read the history or the stories in the books of the Bible, we find that some of the people in Israel didn't always adhere to that. They actually did, unfortunately, mix worship, and they didn't listen to God all the time, as God had asked them to adhere to that history, and they didn't. So they bear punishment, and bear punishment for that, as it so happened. So that's the problem. The problem is that we must separate, we, the people of Israel, we must separate ourselves from these so-called false gods, or the imaginations of these nations that there are gods, goddesses and all that baloney out there. None of that is true. There is one supreme God, the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, God of Arabs, God of every other being. So the thing is that we can, do like some of the people that have done in the past. We can behave like them and start mixing worship with other gods and goddesses, or we can say, no, we only serve the one God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and just put a full stop on that. Now, the Tartarians, by the way, was a race of people, and you may or may not know that the wall of China was not built by China. See, this is all a belief system. Everybody just believes it because they think it's so. The wall of China, it's believed, first of all, the wall of China is over 13,000 miles long. If you go from the east coast of the United States of America today to the west coast, and by the way, I drove from the east coast to the west coast, it's about 3,500 to 4,000 miles. It takes about 3 days journey. I did that journey. And you have to add that 3,000 to 4,000 miles. If it's 4,000 miles, you have to add it 3 times. That's 12,000. And then you have to add another 1,000 miles. That will be 13,000 and then there's add a few more miles on top before you reach the wall of China's length. China did not build that wall. And by the way, the wall is facing China. So the Tartarians is who built that wall, and it is believed that they were protecting themselves from some, whoever was living in China at that time. They were protecting themselves from the races that were in China. It's the other way around, because all the places they fire the arrows from, by the way, they face China and not the other way. You would have thought they face the other way, because if China built it, shouldn't it be facing other countries? And the answer is no, it actually faces China. So everybody has to change their ideology a little bit and fix themselves that it's not what we're always taught. A lot of the school system is just teaching, brainwashing children on lies and lies and lies. Let me tell you something else of importance. Today, in the Western world, fluoride is commonly used in toothpaste, and they tell you it's good for your teeth. Okay? Now, I'm not going to speak about the fact if it's good or bad for your teeth, because that's just, so-called scientific evidence, which I don't agree with anyway. So, what does fluoride do? What fluoride does, it calcifies your third eye. Basically, what it does, it calcifies your third eye, makes it hard, and then you can no longer use your third eye. So think about who wants to do that. Who wants to dumb you down? So you can't practice your third eye, you can't practice pure consciousness, you can't get your desires, you remain subservient, you remain dumbed down. Why do they do that? That's something that you need to think about for yourselves. Now, coming back to Israel, and coming back to the question of when will Israel, we're talking about real Israel, when will the children of Israel go into Israel, the land? And let me give you what my opinion on the matter is. I've written several books on these things, and here is an opinion on this matter. Already, nearly or over 200,000 people have left Israel. There was a particular person that lived in the south of Israel. I don't want to, put his name out because it will just disrespect him. He was totally wrong. He is another one of those guys that was trying to brainwash people into believing. This is back in 2014, by the way, when I went to Israel and actually met him and his so-called followers, and I told them that I didn't agree with what they believed, about everybody has to go to Israel and Zion is a safe place. Look at what Zion is doing. Look at the safety of so-called Zion today. It's the worst place to live, with bombs falling all over the place. So I, told, when people asked me, my students asked me, they said, Rabbi Cohen, what do we do? Do we believe in that? I said, no, of course not. It's talking nonsense. Israel is not a safe place to live. Stay away from Israel. You want to go for a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, to other sites, by all means go. Do that. And then come back home wherever you live. Until God takes you, you're not to make aliyah. You're not to ascend to the land by your own strength. That is the command. So, I prevented a lot of the people from their heartache of going to Israel, selling everything, giving up their nationalities, because there were people over there in Israel that had given up their nationalities and they were crying because they couldn't get back to America. So I said, don't make that mistake. And listen, I've been proven right once again. We're talking about 2014. How many years ago was that? That was 10 years ago. Come on, 2024. And I have been proven right time and time and time again that I was right to stop people from going to Israel back then. What would have happened to you if you were living in Dimona today? Or if you were living in Tel Arad? Where would you be today? Because, the Yemenite forces have fired so many missiles in the Gulf of Aqaba, in the so-called, area where Israel's coastline is, and Israel's, also by the way, they fired missiles in Haifa as well recently, struck Haifa, and they're also keeping the news, blackout on that. They won't tell you about it. So that area in the south is devastated. There's no more tourism there. People are not going there. So if you were living in that area, you'd probably be jobless, you'd probably be on some kind of income support, and you'd probably be crying that you should have never come, and you'd probably be right. So those people that I prevented from going, they should thank me that, I saved their lives from going there and, uprooting themselves from America or whichever country they came from. So having said that, this is what I see today. People ask me how and when we're going to go. I see two things happening. There is a strike, a nuclear strike that is mentioned in the book of Zechariah. That has not yet happened. I believe Israel will be struck with a nuclear or some kind of ballistic missile strike that will be so, intense that it's going to burn people, is going to burn their faces, is going to damage their skin. I believe that is yet near future. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Where Israel is going today, the behavior of present-day Israel and the Edomites in Israel is that it is coming. It's not far off now. Because if they continue in that line where they are now, killing children, killing civilians, killing innocent people, then that strike sooner or later will come. And when that strike happens, this is my personal opinion, okay? Take it as my personal opinion. Don't take it as, other people's opinion, my opinion, the Kohen's opinion. What will happen when this strike happens in Israel, whether it's a nuclear or some kind of special cruise missile technology that strikes Israel, and it will devastate the land, the place where it strikes. Of course, it's going to strike someplace near the south possibly. And when it does strike near the south someplace, because that's where Dimona is as well, when radiation spreads, it's going to damage many, many people. And you know what's going to happen? Many of these so-called Jews that are in Israel are going to flee Israel in droves. They're going to leave Israel like flies flying out. Some of them would have already left, and others are going to leave at the time, and airport's going to be crowded. People are going to be wanting to leave like yesterday. So that's what's going to happen. It's already happening now, where a lot of people are leaving. Airports are full, but it's going to even further, potentiate. It's going to happen even more so down when this strike happens. And if those that are there in Israel, those so-called Jews who claim to be Jews, Ashkenazim, they're going to leave Israel in droves, and they want to get out yesterday. Maybe many of them will die, maybe many of them will not be able to get out, but some of them that are alive will be able to get out and go into their respective countries they came from, because they have dual nationalities. So they'll go back, and what will end up is Israel will end up being emptied. Okay, we're going to end up with an emptied land of Israel, because there'll be radiation there. Israel is only the size of New Jersey maybe. And if it's the size of New Jersey, which is a small place, you can go from one end of Israel to the other in about 3 hours by drive, by car. We did it, so I know it. So think about it. If Israel gets struck with some kind of nuclear device, and there's radiation everywhere, who's going to live there? So what's going to happen, I believe, this is my personal opinion, Israel will be emptied. Israel's going to end up being emptied. There's not going to be many people living there. Maybe very few brave souls will want to remain, but they'll only be risking their lives. And Israel may be empty for a number of years. Now, I can't tell you exactly how many years depending on the radiation, the levels of radiation, it could be 100 years, it could be more than 100 years that Israel will be empty. And you know what's going to happen after those 100 plus years? Who's going to go back to Israel? It will be the so-called black Israel that will go into Israel first. Why? Because they'll say, oh, you go to Israel and tell us if everything's okay. Basically, they will want to send America I'm talking about. America will want to send black Israelites back to Israel because they want to get rid of their problem. They want to get rid of this fascist group that they believe is a danger to their country, and they will ship them out. And when they ship them out, their idea will be, hey, they'll go to Israel and they'll die over there because there's radiation still there in the land. But what will probably start to happen at that time, radiation probably would have been mitigated so much that these black Israel that will go there will start to thrive. And when they start to thrive, other Israelites will be taken into Israel, maybe from other parts of the world. That is what I believe is going to happen in the future. Okay, that's how the people of Israel, the true identity people of Israel, will end up back in Israel, where you're going to find that majority of the races that claim to be Israel now, that probably are not, they probably mix, Edomites, hybrids, they're going to be out of Israel, and many of them are going to be killed. Okay, just like the giants, many of them will be killed. So why do we dig up giants? Because they were killed. They were killed by humans. They were killed by people that had modern weapons and whatnot. Now also remember that these giants, or this Tartarian Empire, they built extremely delicate structures and very impressive structures, and they had floating buildings. They had they had technology that we don't have today still. They had technology in which they could float with their ships in the air without noise and things, and they could float buildings. So they had some great technology. All their structures were dome-shaped mostly, and they had aerials on top, and they were to conduct energy and collect energy in some way. So they had this energy boom in their nations. And the reason why this history was erased is because present-day governments in different countries did not want to bring that technology public, because it would be free. It would be harnessed, harnessed from the air. Sun maybe from the air, maybe from the atmosphere, and they did not want people to have free energy. They wanted to charge you bills with electricity and other things. So they wanted to produce electricity with coal and charge you money for it. So hence why they had to get rid of, they had to kind of cover that technology. And I can guarantee you that certain museums in America, in America, talking about, I won't name the museum, but certain museum in America that collects all this information is hiding it in their vaults. It's all there. It's not gone away anywhere. So these false gods that we demolished, we the people of Israel, we demolished these false gods in the past. These so-called gods that these nations worshipped. We struck them down and we broke them up because they're just idols, stone. We broke those stones up. And so that information is being kept from you today. They don't tell you that. They don't teach you. They don't tell you. Why? Because if they taught you that, then you would believe more in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They want you to believe less in him. They want you they want you to distance you from that God, because that God is very powerful, by the way. That God listens to your prayers. That God is a living God. They don't want you to have a relationship with the living God. They want you to have a relationship with the government and with their false, ideologies. So that's the problem. That's where we are today. So remember that the whole idea is that we serve a covenant God. A covenant God never forsakes his people. Okay? He always loves his people, and he always honors the covenant. God has always honored the covenant, and I'm not surprised at all that God honors the covenant, because he is a covenant loving God that honors the covenant with the people that he loves. I've told you many times before, and I will tell you again, your bodies are meant to last 1,000 years. But if you continue to live a reckless life, on drinking, smoking, and drug abuse, then you will not live for even 100 years. But if you lived a moral life, if you lived a rightful life, and if you had the right food, and if you knew, as I'm telling you, that you can live well over 100 years of age, well over, you can easily live to 150 years, easily. If Abraham lived to 175, if Job lived to 210, and if Moses made it to 120, and then God said you have to go, so that was one thing. Levi lived to 137 years of age. I know people. I went to Israel. I met the Arabs in Mount of Olives. I have a friend there, and his name is Abraham. And I went to his house. He showed me his grandfather. His grandfather didn't look old. He was 134 years of age in the picture. Okay, I saw it with my own eyes. And so therefore, to say that you have to die young is absolute atrocious and a lie. You do not have to die young. Listen, your bodies, God designed your bodies to self-rejuvenate. I am telling you, I look more younger today than I did when I was 30 years of age. I'm telling you, I look more younger today, more youthful than I did when I was when I was 30 years of age. And you find that hard to believe, but that is actually true, absolutely true. So the thing is this, that how is that possible? It's possible because they tell you, the so-called scientists, that your bodies rejuvenate every 7 years. Every cell of your body, the trillions of cells that you have in your body placed by God, they rejuvenate, they renew themselves every 7 years. I'm going to tell you that is not entirely true. Your cells actually can rejuvenate in a year. Less than a year, you can rejuvenate your cells. If you start to fast for 3 days, and you only lived on water and no food, on the 4th day you'll be producing stem cells which will start to rejuvenate your body. It can happen in 3 days. After the 3rd day, on your fast of water, you will be rejuvenating new cells. Your body will start to make new cells. It will repair itself, it will make new cells, it will cleanse itself, and it will do the things that you want to do. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you can be a young man provided you believe in yourself. Provided you believe in yourself. If you believe you're eternally youthful, and if you tell yourself, I am eternally youthful, you can be eternally youthful. I'm telling you. Listen to me and do what I tell you. Say to yourself every day, I am eternally youthful, and God will give you the eternal youth. If you don't listen, you will continue down the path of death, because death is a disease, and you don't want to do that. You want to live a very fruitful, very healthy, abundant, joyful life for as long as you can take it. Long as you can take it. I say even 150 years and more. So if a Chinaman can live for 256 years back in 18th century, why the hell can't you live for 250 years? You can. But do you believe in it? I think what you're all geared to believing is that you have to die early. That's what you're all geared to, and that's what you're expecting, and that's what you're believing. You've got to erase that. Erase it from your memory. Start telling yourself that, no, I am healthy, I am fruitful, I am eternally youthful. I am going to live 150 plus. Tell yourself that. I'm going to live 150 plus. And if you keep telling yourself that, you reprogram yourself to where you should be, from where you are. You will reprogram yourself by that. But you have to tell yourself that every day to reprogram yourself, because you've been brainwashed all these years. If you've been brainwashed for 30 years of your life, 40 years or 50 years of your life, then think the damage that has been done to your bodies. Just think for a minute. How much damage has been done to your bodies by that constant brainwashing that you received from your parents, from your peers, from your schools, from your family or friends. Come out of that, Israel. Come out of that. My people, my people die for what? For lack of knowledge. I am giving you the knowledge that there is hope, there is, new life, there is youthfulness, there is long, long life for you if you listen. There's long, long life for you. Let me also, help you. Some of you who are struggling and suffering from, say, certain illnesses, they can be cured. Listen, all can be cured. It's what you eat that causes the illness. Let me give you a simple solution. Let's say that you have been suffering from asthma. Some of you may have been suffering from asthma for a while, for years, and you're taking your inhaler. You have to carry your inhaler everywhere, and the doctor tells you can't be without your inhaler, and you believe that, and you continue with your inhaler. But let me give you a cure today, that you will never need to carry your inhaler again. Take 7. If you're an adult, and if you're a child, you take less. If you're an adult, you take 7 cloves. If you're a child, you take 3 cloves. When I say a child, I mean 10 to 12 years of age. Adult, 18 years and above. If you're an adult, you take 7 cloves, you put them in a glass of water every night. In the morning, you drink it first thing. If you're a child, 3 cloves, drink it in the morning. Do it for 14 to 21 days. That will cure your asthma forever. Okay? That will cure your asthma forever. So that's a little gem for you that I want to give you today. That everything can be cured. God has made the herbs for our healing. God has made the trees. God has made the flowers for our healing. Problem is that a lot of you don't know that, so you suffer. You take the meds that they give you. You think that's the cure and be all, but it's not the cure and be all. You just end up in more problems. You end up with all sorts of issues and problems. So, I want you to rest assured that there is a cure for everything. Now, of course, I can't publicly tell you everything, because the last time I think it was Kifa who spoke about some cure back in 2021, and it was in YouTube, and then YouTube wrote to me in 2023 that they are taking down that video because it was against their some kind of community policy. Okay, so they removed that recording completely. So, and they can do that today as well, so-called community policy, because they don't want you to be, they don't want you to have great health. This, unfortunately, is something that we have to deal with. But this is why I moved over to Rumble, because I started to find out that YouTube started to delete my videos and recordings. So I decided that enough is enough, and so I moved over. Now I'm still putting YouTube videos only because a few of the people that listen to us, they have to have subtitles. So YouTube offers that feature. For that reason, I have to post it on both. But I am gonna, if Rumble starts to offer that feature, then I'll just simply remove YouTube altogether. Forget about it. It even exists. So that's where I am going. So as I'm telling you, that remember that God has given us everything. Now, let me talk about the continents, and let me talk about the Bible a little bit here. And I think it might be fruitful that for me to tell you. Let me read something for you out of the Bible, Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls, and it might actually help you some. Let's see. Let me open it up. Okay. Let's see. Let me open up the book of Psalms. Okay, book of Psalms. We're going to let's go to Psalm 5. Psalm 5. Okay, verse 7. But as for me, I will come into your house in the multitude of your loving kindness, and in your fear I will pay homage towards your holy temple. Where is the holy temple, or where was it? In Jerusalem, right? In the south. So if you're in America, which way should you be facing to pray? Okay, you should be facing the east. If you're going to face the Holy Temple. Okay, if you're in the UK, I think you're kind of facing somewhere towards south. Depending on where you are, you'll locate the direction of Jerusalem according to where you are. So, you should be facing the east. Like I explained to you, if you want wisdom, when you're reading Psalm 5 and you want wisdom, you should be facing the south. Okay? If you want finance and abundance, you should be facing the north. So let's look at what Psalm 8 says. Let's see. Did I miss something in Psalm 5? Let me see. Psalm 5. Yeah, I think let's see. Yeah, I did miss something. Let me read verse 9. I should read verse 11 actually. But let all those that put their trust in you rejoice. Let them shout for joy, because you defend them. Let them also that love your name be joyful in you. For you, Yod-He, Vah-He, will bless the righteous with favor and surround him as with a shield. If you love God, if you trust in Him, and if you honor the covenant, God will protect you. God will surround you with a shield. What is the shield? It's God's angels that are around you like fire. This is what God promises you. If you honor God, He will honor you back. Okay? Now, I wanted to look at Psalm 8. And I want to read verse 6 of Psalm 8. You have made Him to have dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under His feet. All sheep and oxen, yes, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passes through the paths of the seas. Let me just say it again. And whatsoever passes through the paths of the seas, and whatsoever passes the paths of the seas, we have dominion over it. Listen, beyond Antarctica, there is a white wall of ice around us. It is hiding from us 40 continents of this world that we do not know nothing about. The Bible mentions some of those, by the way. And 40 continents. How do I know it's 40 continents? Because there is a Buddhist map in one of the Buddhist monasteries. It's an ancient map, and they illustrate 40 continents beyond the ice wall that we are not privy to, that have been hidden from us, that our governments don't want us to know. Okay, the US and many other governments have bases in Antarctica to prevent people from going there. And all these UFOs, so-called aliens, by the way, they come from those so-called continents. So where do they come from? They come from the earth. They come from the sea. What does the Bible say about the sea? That all sheep and oxen, yes, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, the fish of the sea, the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passes through the paths of the seas, we have dominion over it. We are the number one race of people that have dominion over it. No alien can defeat us. Doesn't matter what technology they carry. They are over there beyond the ice wall, and they hide them from us. You may have seen in some movies, they show you the alien ship coming out of the water. And by the way, they have to, because they cannot get out of this planet. There is no getting out above us. It's enclosed with a dome, okay? With this firmament. We're enclosed in. We cannot get out. We can only get in. So this idea that there is space is a total and utter lie that you are taught in schools and in movies. There's no such thing. Yeah, there is sky, and there is blue sky above us, which is the waters that we see above the sky. So there is some space, some kind of area with no oxygen between maybe the water and the sky that they call space, but they cannot get out. No satellite can go up there. By the way, they have to carry satellites in balloons. Why? Because they have to use satellites in balloons. That's why they own whole industries of balloons and how to blow up balloons, with these helium tanks. So, listen, I think I've said a lot. Today I've given you a lot to think about. 40 continents that they do not tell you about. Listen, if you really wanted to know more about these continents, I think that ask God for wisdom. Ask God for wisdom. Maybe He will direct you at, what's going on. But like I told you, trust God, and God is there to assist you. Believe God, trust in Him, you pray to Him, you give Him glory, you give Him thanks. He is there for your abundance. Now I keep telling you, and I want you to do this exercise, is that when you go to bed at night and you're going to go to sleep, I want you can write what you want. At that time when you're going to sleep, just take a little notepad, pen by your bed, and just write on it what you want. Write on it and then put it under your pillow or on the side of your bed. Then you go to sleep, okay? And it can come to pass for you. The other thing I want you to do is when you go to bed, I want you to, start counting your millions of dollars. Imagine that there is a box, cardboard box maybe, on the bed. And every time you look at it, $1 million falls in it, and you pick up the million and you put it on a pallet that is beside your bed. So you counting millions. You picking up the million from your bed and putting it on the pallet. So 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, and you're counting 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, and maybe by the time you reach 50 million and your eyes are closing and you are counting, and maybe by the time you reach maybe 50, maybe 60 million, maybe more, you fall asleep. Okay? I want you to do that exercise every day. If you want to see millions of dollars in your life, I want you to do this exercise. And I want you to continue to do this exercise throughout this year, every day. And when you wake up in the morning, before you put your foot, if you have a telephone beside you, and before you lay foot on the ground, I want you to put this little prayer in your phone. So the first thing you do when you open your eyes is you read this prayer, and you personalize this prayer. And what is the prayer? Well, let me tell you what the prayer is. I have it in my phone as well. So the prayer is as such. Let's see. It's from the book of Deuteronomy, and it says as follows. The Elohim, let's read it exactly as it is in the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, your Elohim, will set you high above all the nations of the earth. And you can say it 3 times. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, your Elohim, will set you high above all nations of the earth. He will set you high above all nations of the earth. Or you can say me. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, my Elohim, will set me high above all nations of the world. And if you want to see Lord, you can say Lord. It's okay. You want to say Lord your God, you can say that. If it feels comfortable to you to say Lord your God or Lord my God. The Lord my God will set me high above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon me and overtake me. Blessed shall I be in the city, blessed shall I be in the field, blessed shall I be in the fruit of my womb, in the fruit of my ground, in the fruit of my cattle, increase of my herds, and the young of my flock. Blessed shall I be in the basket and my kneading bowl. Blessed shall I be when I come in, and blessed shall I be when I go out. And you can say Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh or the Lord, whichever you feel comfortable with. The Lord will cause my enemies who rise against me to be defeated before me. They shall come out against me 1 way and flee before me 7 ways. The Lord will command the blessing on me in my barns and all that I undertake, and it will bless me in the land that the Lord or that Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh has given me. He will bless me in the land that Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh has given me. My God has given me. And then you can say Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh has established me. Remember what I told you earlier in a few other messages, that Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is a activation code that activates certain areas of your brain. So Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh has established me as a people holy to himself. When you say Yod, you activate your, Yod means the eyes. Which eyes? The third eye. Yod. Hey, Wah. What does it activate? It activates a gland in your brain that's deep inside your brain. Hey, okay? That's why I say Yod Hey. Say it like that. Yod Hey Wah Hey. Yod Hey Wah Hey. So Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh will command the blessing on me in my barns and all that I undertake, and it will bless me in the land that Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, my Elohim, has given me. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, or like I said, if you don't feel comfortable using the Hebrew letters, for some reason you can use the old term, the Lord. So the Lord has established me as a people holy to himself, as he has sworn to me, and Yahoshua will make me abound in prosperity, in the fruit of my womb, fruit of my livestock, in the fruit of my ground, within the land that Yahoshua has given me. And by the way, the English language is a spell language. Okay, it's a spell language. It's to make you weak. Okay, I just want to just put that in there. Yahoshua has opened to his good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain to my land in its season, and to bless all the works of my hand, and to bless all the works of my hand, and to bless all the works. And I shall lend to many nations, but I shall not borrow. And I shall lend to many nations, but I shall not borrow. And I shall lend to many nations, but I shall not borrow. Say it 3 times. And Yahoshua will make me the head and not the tail. He will make me the head and not the tail. He will make me the head and not the tail. Say it 3 times. And I shall continually go up, and I shall continually go up, and I shall only go up, and I shall only go up. Say it 3 times. That prayer, I want you to put in your phone, your tablet, whatever you put beside your bed. Okay, I want it to be there. The first thing you do in the morning when you get up, before you even put your foot down on the floor, I want you to read that prayer first, before you decide to go to the bathroom and do anything. Okay, read that prayer. This is my instructions to you to do that every day from now on, and God will bless you tremendously, and God will keep you safe, and God will enlighten you. Serve God diligently. He is a gracious God. He is a merciful God. I've given you some things to think about. There is a lot more things that can be said and done. As for the ancient Tartarian history, I think, like I said, when I go to the East, I will pick up some of these books in the East, and I'll read them in the language that they have, and then I'll be able to spell it backwards into English, translate it back into English, and tell you what actually happened. I don't think that information is available in this country, in our libraries. Or maybe they are available in the libraries, maybe hidden away somewhere, but I believe that you're going to get the proper history, the full force of the history from the Near East, not from here. That's my personal feeling. So, with that, I don't want to stretch this lecture too far. I want you to, enjoy the lecture. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about your life. And I want to give you another cure before I go. And the other cure is this: if you have any types of kidney problems, if you have any types of cysts in your body, maybe, some women suffer from breast cancer, and sometimes they have a cyst on their, this lump in their breast. And sometimes, men may have cysts on their kidneys, and sometimes you may have cysts somewhere else. Doesn't matter where it is. I want you to get castor oil. I want you to heat it up, and I want you to hot compress that cyst. And if you can't hot compress it because of whatever issue, I want you to take castor oil. I want you to heat it up, and I want you to rub that area every day, 2 to 3 times a day. It will completely heal you of your cyst. I have heard of women that had breast lumps, maybe some kind of cancer, and maybe benign or maybe not benign, and they had these lumps, and they used, what they did, they put castor oil on a bandage, and they put it in their bra, and they put it right next to their breast, and they did that every day, 2-3 times a day, and they allowed that oil. Castor oil is very thick. It's drawing out. It draws out anything in your body. So if there's a cyst, it'll draw it out. If cyst in your brain, you got brain tumor, it will draw it out. Put it on there. It will draw it out, and it will remove it, and it will finish it. Okay? I also know that you can use frankincense on the head. If those people who suffered from brain tumors, they can put frankincense on the head, and that cures brain tumors. Now, I'm just telling you, rest is up to you what you do with it, but definitely castor oil for your body, like for your breast lumps, for your stomach, for your if you have cysts in your stomach, maybe in your fallopian tubes, maybe in your kidneys. My father, back in Pakistan, he had in his X-rays they found some cysts on his kidneys, and I told my dad. I actually went there and I saw him, and I gave him castor oil, and I said to him, Dad, take this castor oil, make sure you rub it on your back every day. Get your wife to rub it on your back 2-3 times a day, and my father is doing that. And by the way, my father is alive and well and healthy. And you know what the doctor was telling him? You got cancer, you got this, you got that, and don't know, blah blah blah. And you know what my dad said to him? Don't try to scare me. I don't really care. I've seen plenty of cancers in my life, and that's not going to scare me. So my dad just walked away from the so-called stupid doctor, who's giving him this stupid advice. So my dad says, no, I'm not doing any more tests, and I'm just going to take care of myself. And so my dad is still pretty healthy, and he will be. But like I said, do the right thing for yourselves. I'm not saying that you ignore doctor's advice all the time. I'm just simply saying that majority of the time the doctor gives you negative news, and they do not give you hope. They give you fear, you're going to die. Don't listen to those kind of news. God wants to bless you. God is going to bless you. God wants to give you positive report. God wants to give you positive life. He wants to give you abundance. He wants to give you health. He wants to give you joy. Believe in that. Believe that God is going to give you joy, abundance, blessing, hope. Sure, the doctor can be there telling you one thing, but you believe in another. Continue to believe in the right, positive news. Continue to believe in blessings. Continue to believe in abundance. Continue to believe in perfect health, in joyful relationships. Continue to believe in that, and you will have it. Okay, with that, have a wonderful Sabbath and a wonderful rest of the week, and continue to do the exercises I told you. Take care, and Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Shalom to you.